Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Well, I guess there's only one thing left to say then. Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Way! Goodbye! And bless him, he got a bit emotional before his speech ended.
I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad.
I bet she's crying at the thought of that as well, for different reasons. Just looking at him must be grotesque, let alone him crawling into bed every night with you in his underpants. Imagine that. You really would rather die. You really would. She's not even a bad looking lass, bless her, do you know what I mean? You could get yourself out there, love, get a divorce, have all the casual sex you can handle, and let's really finish him off. He's halfway there, he's just on the edge now, let's take it to the fucking hole. Quite literally. To be fair to Starmer, he'd probably be happy enough just to sit and watch. It's pretty much what he's been doing as Prime Minister, you know? As the country gets fucked, he just sits and watches. Now, Starmer had the cheek to spend a lot of his speech just like praising himself for stuff he'd done, and I'm like, do you really think this is what we're going to remember you for? You're the most hated Prime Minister in history. And you did that within a matter of months. This is a man who said, now we don't have enough money to save the pensioners from freezing to death this winter. We do have enough money for migrant hotels, for Ukraine's war. When people were raging about the brutal murder of little girls, he compared them basically to Nazis. And while telling us how much he cared so much about young people, banning them from the internet, he voted against an inquiry on the mass rape of young girls in this country. And I'm not even including the new stuff like the puberty blockers we're now introducing to our kids, experimenting on them. So now when you're 11, 12 years old, you can just ruin your body, ruin your fertility, fuck yourself or like mutilate yourself, but you're not allowed on the internet. The guy was a joke, and when you criticised him, he'd throw you in jail. He arrested more people for social media posts than any world leader in one of the smallest countries. He will forever be remembered as two-tier Keir, a man who created more division within this country than any other Prime Minister in history. And look, he didn't do it alone, right? Yes, he followed on an agenda that had been set from the Tories and the Labour Party. They're the same beast, in my opinion, at this point. They're two sides of the same coin. And we've had 7 Prime Ministers in the last 10 years, and only 2 of them have actually been elected. Talk about democracy. And once again, we find ourselves in the same position where a government have ran the trust of the people into the ground, consistently doing things that we didn't vote for, that we don't want. Funny old thing that, isn't it? And then when we get to a point where we absolutely hate the figurehead of the beast, they just change the face and carry on in the same direction. So I'm expecting more of the same, if not worse, from what I've been reading up on him, from this guy, Andy Burnham. Looks like a right Wally as well, doesn't he? God almighty. And look, before passing the power over to Andy Burnham, a lot has been going on in the last week that we really need to cover in this video. The government are preparing to force social media platforms to make content from the BBC, ITV and Channel 4 more prominent in user feeds to combat misinformation. We're going full Black Mirror here. They realise now that because we're actually getting our news from reliable sources, that isn't just government propaganda, they're going to force laws on platforms like X so that they can force them to push the BBC in our faces. The same BBC which doctored, Donald Trump's statements to make it sound like he was inciting violence. The same BBC who are like the biggest hirer of paedophiles in the world. All under the guise of misinformation. Honestly, when you look back at what happened in COVID and how every platform was being told by governments privately, this is what you've got to say, these are the lines, and the amount of wrong information that we were given. And now we're just supposed to expect them to trust this lot. Fuck you. It is so dark that they can do this in the name of misinformation when they're the biggest fucking distributors of it, misinformation. But they get to decide what's true and false, apparently. That's how this works. It's insane. It is insane. And you really realise just how insane it is when the BBC, which is funded by the British people and is there apparently to tell us everything that is in our interests, have not made one single mention of Rupert Lowe's grooming gang inquiry report, which currently sits at 49 million views on X since it was posted less than a week ago. 49 million views worldwide. This is worldwide news. Everyone's talking about it. It's all over America. It's the biggest news story in the fucking world. And yet the main news company funded by the people, the taxpayers of Britain, are not talking about it. I can't even believe what we're living in right now. Can we even begin to wrap our minds around that? Imagine you watch TV and there was a TV show and that level of viewership around a news story was happening and the main news corporation in the TV show was not talking about it. In a case where 255,000 women and girls minimum were raped and they're not even talking about it. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And you'll remember that Rupert Law and Nigel Farage both previously had promised to do this inquiry. Rupert Law followed through with his promise. Nigel Farage, no surprise, hasn't. And in my opinion, it comes back to what I said about why I wouldn't vote for reform. It's the work. Nigel Farage is a talker. He's not a worker. Rupert Law is a worker. Hate him or love him, he gets things done. He actually says what he's going to do and then he goes and does it. And he sat there and listened to these girls tell him the most harrowing stories of what they had been through for hours and days and weeks. And he delivered this report. And don't get me wrong, other people have been in the background for many, many years, decades even, who have been trying to raise the alarm, who were silenced. But we have to give credit where it's due to Rupert Law to pushing this to the forefront and putting the spotlight on this case. These politicians of the left and the Labour and these councillors, they've not just tried to silence this, there's been a complete and utter cover-up from police, social workers, loads of people. It's insane what they've done. And big respect to all the women who came forward, because the things that they've spoken of, and I'm going to list a few of these things, so trigger warning, they've been in a real life horror movie, these women. There was accounts of women being gang raped by up to 20 men, aging up to like 50 years old. They were controlled with violence, with drugs. They were threatened at gunpoint to comply. Apparently one was even doused with petrol and threatened to be set on fire. One girl had a broken glass bottle shoved inside of her. Where do I even go from there? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is going on? This is evil beyond belief. They were strangled, they were tied down, they were burned with cigarettes. Their families' homes were threatened, smashed windows, family members were hurt, countless abortions forced on these girls. And in being groomed, obviously, they were told, if you love me, well, you have to have sex with all of these guys as well. And basically, these guys would lock the girls in flats, which look like fucking crack dens from some of the ones I've seen. They'd call the guys and alert them to, we got fresh meat, and they'd all come racing over as quick as they could. And when the girls would get sexually transmitted diseases, obviously, would the social workers, would the NHS alert the authorities? Would anything be done about it? No. When the cops would turn up, would they do anything about it? No. Actually, cops even joined in. There was a cop who was identified by one of these girls as joining in with the rapes. And as if that isn't all bad enough, these guys even used a dog on one of these girls. Not often am I speechless, but yeah. Imagine having to say that to Rupert Law. Imagine having to admit that and to let alone go through it. Jesus fucking Christ. And the reality is that this is still going on up and down the country. Even in my town of Newcastle, it's happening. That's a fact. And there's been people saying 250,000, that's an exaggeration. You're just saying that, for publicity. One of the solicitors who was involved in exposing one of the biggest cases in Rotherham, he declared in his research that 72,000 girls alone have been affected by these cases in the Bradford area. So to say that UK-wide 250,000, that's a conservative estimate. That it's probably way more. And the sad thing is that this is being politicized. This is being labeled as a right-wing talking point, which is mental. How the safety of girls in this country could become a right-wing talking point. I mean, why is this not a talking point for everyone? But because it was the Labour councils in the likes of the biggest cases of Rotherham, Rochdale and Oldham, because they cared more about those communities voting for them than the safety of the girls, Labour played a massive role in this cover-up. And therefore, they have to find a way to demonise anyone who's talking about this. Which I think shows just how insane this country has become now. And Labour are still winning local elections now, after all that. And what they've done by smearing people who speak out about this is they've made it harder for just average people who aren't politically minded to voice their concerns. And what's scary is multiple victims of these rape gangs are now saying that some of their main attackers, they're being released early. This guy here was given 35 years in prison in early 2017. And Sammy Woodhouse, who's been unbelievable in speaking out, is saying that they're considering him for early release. That's how seriously we take this in Britain. And I'm going to come on to this a little bit later as well, because I think the way we're handling this crime and many other crimes, there's a knock-on effect that's causing so many other bad things in this country. Now, you might have seen this footage from Edinburgh of a man who went on a rampage trying to stab specifically Muslims in Edinburgh. I think 5 people were stabbed by him. You can see him running here, trying to attack people. Just fucking crazy. I mean, these poor people running for their lives. Luckily, no one died, and the 5 victims were discharged from hospital, apparently. Now, Keir Starmer posted about this immediately, and a lot of people were like, hold on a second. You've been very clear about not posting on things, not whipping up people to think a certain way and let the police do their job and tolerance and all of this sort of stuff. But as soon as we've seen a white man going to attack these people, he's immediately firing out tweets. Let's take a quick look back at the tweet he put out after the Southport murders. He said, horrendous and deeply shocking news emerging from Southport. My thoughts are with all those affected. I would like to thank the police and emergency services for their swift response. I am being kept updated as the situation develops. He's very neutral there. Doesn't tell people what to think, doesn't speculate on what happened, and he says later why he did that.
If this trial had collapsed because I or anyone else had revealed crucial details while the police were investigating, while the case was being built, while we were awaiting a verdict, then the vile individual who committed these crimes would have walked away a free man.
So Keir Starmer apparently couldn't say anything because he would have jeopardised the trial, even though the guy committed the most horrific acts we've ever seen in this country. This was a man who had a terrorist manual and he executed little girls. Interestingly, despite all of that, and the families being told that it was a terror attack, right up until hours before they put their statement out, the police, where they magically 180-degree turned and said, no, actually, this isn't a terror attack. Almost as if someone higher up in power had told them this can't be deemed a terror attack because we don't need that kind of shit right now. But Starmer said, on the basis of the trial, I would never give an opinion or speculate or say the details of what had happened. And yet this is the tweet he put out after that attack in Edinburgh. The suspect appears to be motivated by anti-Muslim hatred. I will not tolerate this. He will face the full force of the law. He's got him guilty and he's got the motive, he's got it all. And obviously I agree with everything he's saying, but it's the difference in the way he approached it. And this is what people mean when they say two-tier. And we haven't just seen this from Keir Starmer. We've seen it from Shabana Mahmood. We've seen it from all of them. They've got one way of handling white crime and one way of handling non-white crime. And that is crystal fucking clear. Anyone denying it, you're lying. And there was no mention from Keir Starmer worrying about whipping up hatred online. No mention of this as an ongoing case. Nothing. Couldn't give a shit. It was immediately declared a terror attack, even though nobody actually died in that one. So when people are executed and little babies are executed, that's not a terror attack. Do you see what I'm saying here? It's mental, this. And again, I am not taking away from the severity of what happened in Edinburgh. It's fucking terrible that these poor people are running for their lives, these innocent people. But the division, for me, that these politicians keep speaking about, they are causing. The way they handle all of these situations, they are treating people differently, and that is causing the division. You don't unite people by treating them differently, do you? Especially when little girls have been killed, for example. And let's be honest here, Keir Starmer specifically, he only acknowledges those kind of deaths when he absolutely has to. Henry Novak died and it took him months to mention it, and only when the crowd were baying for blood almost did he have to actually come out and say something. He did everything he could to not mention that, and there's been many that he hasn't mentioned. Take this girl, for example, Rhiannon White, who I've covered previously on the channel. She worked at a migrant hotel. One day she's leaving work, she's I think head towards a train station or a bus stop, and this hotel resident stabs her 23 times in the head. She was a mother of a little boy. This little boy here, who apparently, when he heard his mummy had gone to heaven, screamed. He screamed so much that when her sister told the story, she was breaking down, and it had me in fucking tears listening to her tell this story. This is her mother, and she has repeatedly appealed to Keir Starmer to talk to him about what is going on in this country, and he has never acknowledged her existence once. Not only has her existence not been acknowledged, she was coerced by police to tone down her statement after her daughter's murder. Apparently this was in fear of more riots similar to those that happened in Southport. And we see things like that. We see when a person, I mean, this is every single day on social media, you see a post about a murder or a rape every single day, multiple times a day, and you see where these Sky News, BBC News, they limit comments so no one can say any details about the actual case, who did it, whatever, and there's never any description of the man, and there's never anything. These companies are doing that directly being instructed by Keir Starmer and his government, which will be no different under Andy Burnham. And this is what people are talking about. They're sick of it. How can you possibly feel like the government is doing its best for our safety when we don't even know who the fuck are committing these crimes? We're not even told anything. We're kept in the dark like children. That is not how a government which has your best interests at heart behaves. And we're not stupid. I don't care if you're right or left. Anyone with common sense can say that. And look, it's clear as day. The reason they're trying to suppress this information from the rape gangs to these attacks that are happening on a daily basis is so that the pro-mass immigration agenda is not stopped. They don't want an uprising where everyone goes, enough is enough. Like, this is a fucking joke. And also responsibility, because they know they're the ones with all of the 200,000 illegal immigrants have come in the last few years, man. We don't know who the fuck they are, what the fuck they're capable of, and things like that have happened to Rhiannon White as a result of it. And they don't want us to hold them responsible. Now, after this Edinburgh attack, where obviously we found out all the details of the guy who did it immediately and his motive and everything else, nothing was hidden from us. Funny old thing. The left-wing politicians immediately start blaming Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, Elon Musk for inciting the violence. Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry, it's whipping everyone up to go and attack people. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure how smart people are, but if the rape of Britain hadn't have happened, then Rupert Lowe wouldn't have had an inquiry to make in the fucking first place. Like, Rupert Lowe's not just sitting around going, just need to do something to whip up hatred. He didn't create the need for this inquiry. The rapists did. No rapes, no inquiry. Sort of how it works. If a lunatic, here's what happened in this rape gang inquiry, which we don't know that he has, but let's just say he did. And he decides to go on a rampage in response to the rapists, in his head, obviously, because these are just innocent people he's fucking trying to attack. That's nothing to do with Rupert Lowe and Elon Musk, and everything to do with the scumbags who committed these rapes. When did reporting on a crime become the crime and not the crime itself? I'm living in a fucking lunatic asylum here. What the hell are we talking about? If people don't rape, there's no reporting on the rapes. But Rupert Lowe's to blame, apparently, for this guy being incensed by rapists. Mental. And you know what? Without Rupert Lowe and without Elon Musk giving us the actual platform to have freedom of fucking speech, which even still is under attack from this corrupt government, these women, these brave women who've come forward, would never have had their voices heard. Not on the scale that it has been. Anyway, 50 fucking million people have read this now. It would have remained suppressed, just as the government, just as the mainstream media wanted it to be. And I love how the people who give it the Me Too as the best movement ever and believe all women, all of that just stops in a heartbeat the minute their political party's interests come into play, which shows you don't give a fuck about women. It's all for show. It's all bullshit. And this is the side of politics I hate, where, you know, when something seriously bad happens and people ignore the truth and they put human lives beneath getting votes. Take, for example, this attack on that Muslim community. That guy is a fucking piece of shit, deserves to go to jail, deserves everything that happens to him. And it should be talked about. And I don't think we should accuse people who are talking about it as whipping up hatred towards white people, because that would be ridiculous, of course. And yet that's what people do whenever people discuss the rape gang, the attempted beheading in Belfast. Oh, you're whipping up hatred, you're whipping up division. No, we're talking about crimes that are fucking happening, you moron. Can we not do that now? Do we have to stay silent because it makes you uncomfortable? This is ridiculous. It shouldn't be even remotely controversial. I'm seen as a controversial influencer because I talk about things that are happening. Wow. Insane. Acknowledging a systemic failure allowed for hundreds of thousands of British girls to be brutalized. It shouldn't be controversial. It's the truth. And people should not be painted out as Nazis or right-wing or anything bad for acknowledging that. Especially not the people, those poor girls who had the strength to come forward and say the hell that they've been through. And I think anyone who's painting it that way is a fucking disgrace and cares more about getting votes in their politics than they do just about basic morals. And what's sad is when you see this crazy bastard in Edinburgh trying to attack these poor innocent people, or in Belfast, after that attempted beheading, where the most horrific footage, I didn't even cover it at the time because I was so like, the Henry Novak thing was such a depressing story, and I thought, I don't even want to talk about this, so fucking depressing. And then you see the guys dressed in black in Belfast going around setting fire to houses. And I seen footage of this poor little immigrant family. They're trying to escape their fucking house. They've got these tiny little kids running out the house. They must be fucking terrified. And you get these cunts in politics and the media who group the people who are normal, like me and you, who are like, what the fuck is going on? Like, someone's getting an attempted beheading in the street. What planet am I living on anymore? The same outrage, the same shock that you see when you're reading this grooming gang inquiry, for example. And what they do is they group normal people in with those lads who are smashing the fucking house up, setting them on fire and terrorizing a poor family. All very clever of them to paint us all the same way, because it makes people scared to speak out because of the way you're going to feel like you're being looked at. But if we had a strong government to start with, who were handling these rape gangs instead of allowing them to continue till this day, if we had a strong police force that were clamping down on all this shit, and it made us regular people feel like this is in hand, like this isn't going to continue, they've got this, and we weren't releasing everyone early, and we weren't so soft on fucking crime in this country, so much of this I don't think would be happening. I think it wouldn't be nowhere near as insane as the direction we're going in right now. And I think we're crying out for a leader who just makes people feel fucking safe again in their own country. And as much as people can blame Elon Musk or Nigel Farage or Rupert Lowe or whoever the fuck politically you want to point the finger at, they're not in charge. The last time I checked, it's not in any of their power to fucking stop this or change this. And we're fucking desperate. We're absolutely desperate for some actual fucking leadership, and for someone to treat every fucking criminal the same, lock the bastards up. When they do something wrong, make sure it's a tough sentence and it scares other criminals to not want to fucking do it again, because right now, they've got no reason to fucking give a shit. Keir Starmer released some guy on early release. He killed a man within 24 hours of being out. Just some random innocent dog walker. That's what leadership we've had. Shocking, man, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Let's see what happens next. I'll try and do some more videos on the channel this month as well. Hit the comments. Let me know if there's any other topics that you want me to discuss, especially outside of politics. I love talking about other stuff as well. Big love to everyone supporting the channel. It's a thankless task talking politics. You divide people automatically. I still stick my neck out and try and make sense of this shit. I like to think I'm just a normal bloke like one of you as well, who just applies this at a common sense level. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.